Hi, DrBiology here, and this video is a short video to do with osmosis, and this is related to cell transport as part of AQA GCSE Biology, and it's the cell biology topic. So what I'm going to be talking about today is osmosis. So this is where water may move across cell membranes, and osmosis is the diffusion of water from a dilute solution to a concentrated solution through a partially permeable membrane. So it's important to remember that water moves across what we call a partially permeable membrane. So it'll only let small molecules like water through, whereas larger molecules, bigger molecules like sucrose, they cannot pass through the membrane. Other words that we use here, which are quite a bit different to diffusion, is we say a dilute solution. So a dilute solution is where there is a large amount of water molecules, whereas a concentrated solution is there are less water molecules and there are what we call solutes or larger particles like sucrose. Just to remind you about what I mean by dilute. Okay, so here we've got some squash in the bottom left corner, and you can see a dilute blackcurrant squash where there's lots of water and very little blackcurrant. Okay, and as you get a more concentrated solution, you'll notice that there's a lower concentration of water and there's a higher concentration of blackcurrant juice. So that's the way that I remember the difference between the two. So dilute is where there's more water molecules, and concentrated is where there's less water molecules. So if there's a lower concentration of water molecules in the cell, in other words, it's concentrated, okay, then water molecules, there'll be more water molecules on the outside of the cell, so making it more dilute, and therefore there's a net movement of water into the cell. Whereas if there's a higher concentration of water molecules in the cell than the surrounding solution, we would say that that is now more dilute, and therefore water moves from a dilute concentration to a more concentrated solution, which will be to the outside of the cell. So there's a net movement of water out of the cell. When we say net movement, we mean the amount of water. So the net movement will be more outwards than inwards. So why is osmosis important? Well, cells need to maintain a water balance so they function properly. So they need to ensure that they are hydrated enough, and therefore reactions can occur inside the cell. So when you exercise, you lose water and ions in sweat. So it's important to replace these as too much or too little water is drawn into the cells by osmosis, which then will obviously damage them. So when too much water enters a cell, they get bigger, and in animal cells, if they get too big, they can eventually burst because they don't have a cell wall. Right, okay, so we're going to now predict osmosis. So what I'd like you to do is think about each of these examples and draw an arrow to show which way the water will move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at that task, and then I'll show you the answers. So please pause now. Okay, so first one, you can see there's a more dilute concentration of water particles on side A, so therefore it will move from side A to side B. Number two, again, there's more water particles, so it's more dilute, moving to a concentrated solution. Three, well, you can actually see there's an equal number, so we're in equilibrium. So actually, there'll be no net movement. It will be very equal. And then on 4, you can see on the side B, there is a higher number of water particles, meaning it's more dilute. So therefore, it will move from side B to side A. Next time, I'm going to be looking at the required practical in quite a lot of detail. So this is looking at the effect of a range of concentrations of salt or sugar solutions on the mass of a plant tissue. So we're looking at osmosis. Usually most schools will use potato tissue, but you could use many different types of tissue. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, and please do subscribe.